Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today we're going to be talking about what the Steelers' off-season plan needs to be after losing to the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs 28-14 and getting eliminated, and what their off-season plan needs to be this off-season moving forward. I think the biggest questions are going to be Mike Tomlin, quarterback, improving the wide receiver room, and Najee Harris being a free agent. Let's get into it. I think it all has to start with Mike Tomlin, because I think Mike Tomlin is probably the biggest identity of this Pittsburgh Steelers team, alongside the defense. And do you let go of Mike Tomlin? Do you let go of him? I think that's the big question. Like, I don't think Mike Tomlin's a guy you fire. That's not like Bill Belichick and the Patriots. They parted ways last offseason. Like, the Patriots didn't want to get rid of Belichick, but they felt like it was time to move on, and Belichick felt like it was time to move on. Like, it's at that point where, like, we spent so much time together, maybe it's time for you to start your new beginning, and same for us. And that's what kind of happens when a coach like Tomlin has had his legendary run in Pittsburgh. But you know what? If I'm Pittsburgh, I don't do it. I don't think this coaching cycle is that strong to be doing that. Like, I think I think if you're going to get rid of a great like Mike Tomlin, right? You're going to get rid of a great like Mike Tomlin. Do you have to get rid of him? You have to get rid of a great coach and replace him with a great coach. And I think there are only two coaches right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers that they can come in and, maybe I'm not going to say be as good as Mike Tomlin, but be great like Mike Tomlin. And I think that's Mike Vrabel, who I don't see going to Pittsburgh. I think I don't think it would be impossible for Pittsburgh to land Mike Vrabel, but I think Mike Vrabel would probably much rather go to New England. Although I think Pittsburgh's probably in a better situation. I don't know. It's actually, you know what? New England is probably in a better situation with Pittsburgh than Pittsburgh, just because the fact that New England actually has a quarterback, knows what their future is at the quarterback position, and has a top 4 pick this year. Maybe New England is in a better position for a head coaching job. But I think the other guy that, even though they don't have any head coaching experience, I guess would be Ben Johnson, who I don't know. I think there are more structured offenses than the Pittsburgh Steelers to go to. Like, I think the Chicago Bears, like, I think this year probably you'd maybe say the Steelers' offense is better than the Bears this season, but it's not much. It's not by much, because the Steelers' offense wasn't very good this year. But I think Ben Johnson comes in. I think it'd be much easier for Ben Johnson to fix the Bears' offense than it would be for the Steelers. I'm sure Ben Johnson would rather go to Chicago than Pittsburgh, or possibly stay in Detroit. I don't know if Ben Johnson would go to Pittsburgh, but it's very possible. But I don't. If you can't land Johnson or you can't land Vrabel, no need for Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin to part ways, and that's the way I feel about it. But it's not just keeping Mike Tomlin that makes this team better. They have to figure out how to win a playoff game. It's not just, hey, let's have a good regular season. Let's get the winning record for Coach Tomlin, and then get to the playoffs and completely check out. No, let's get to the playoffs and have success there. And you have to, start by improving with the players. And how do you do that? I think it starts off with the quarterback position. I think this is a bad time to be looking for a quarterback. I think you have an amazing quarterback at the top of the free agent list, Sam Darnold. I'd go after Sam Darnold. I don't know if Sam Darnold goes there. Like with Ben Johnson, I mean, look, Ben Johnson, there could be a way, like, for him. Like, if Ben Johnson came in, maybe he could bring Darnold in, and then Pittsburgh, I think, is maybe a great team. I don't think Pittsburgh can afford Sam Darnold, because right now the cap space, Pittsburgh has about $40 million to spend. Sam Darnold might ask for $40 million in his contract, and then you're going to be right at the cap number if you sign Darnold, or right below or right near the cap number. I don't think they can afford to bring in to bring in Sam Darnold. So here's the move I make. You know, trade for Kirk Cousins. I know that's a quarterback that has has a big salary himself, but there are ways to go around it. Atlanta can take some of his salary in a trade. Like if you offer a fourth round pick, I'm sure Atlanta will take some of his salary away, and then or an add-on, you can restructure his contract to the point, where Kirk Cousins might agree to take less money in order to go play for Pittsburgh. So you can get his contract way down than it already is and get him. And honestly, I would probably rather Kirk Cousins right now than Russell Wilson. I know Kirk had a not so great year, but I don't know if Atlanta was a real good fit for Kirk, to be honest. I think maybe Mike Tomlin and the Steelers would be a better fit for him. I think he'd be great with Arthur Smith. I think that'd be another good thing for Kirk Cousins, having Arthur Smith as the play caller for him. But you have to add in some weapons. And here are the weapons. I think you have to go all out in bringing in wide receivers for Kirk Cousins. And I'm going to go a little crazy with the wide receivers I have him. The wide receivers I think you have to add in. But so let's start off with that. So let's start off with this. I think you call New York. You got to call New York. Like I said, I think you trade a fourth round pick for Kirk, and I think then you call the New York Jets and you try to get a deal done for Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams and try to bring in one of those guys. You add in. I think for the Jets, the better fit for them and Kirk Cousins would probably be Garrett Wilson. But I think Devontae Adams would be great. Devontae Adams is a big fan of George Pickens. I think Devontae Adams is also a big fan of Mike Tomlin. And the Steelers were on the list of teams interested in Devontae Adams when the Raiders were trying to get rid of him. Devontae Adams could be a good fit for the New York Jets. Sorry, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Aaron Rodgers decides to retire and he decides he doesn't want to play for the Jets anymore and the Jets decide they want to get rid of him, Devontae Adams could be a good option. I think Garrett Wilson would be better for them. He's younger, and you have more years with him. But I think either or would be great options. You can trade some of your next year's picks in order to make that work. All right, getting into the next trade, I think this team should not trade. We got a draft selection I think they should make, and then two draft selections I think this team should make, and then we'll get to free agency. All right. First draft selection, going to get into it. Wide receiver position again. I think you keep adding at that. You got pick number 21. Obviously, you add in Garrett Wilson. You already have George Pickens. Those two guys would be great together, but you need a wide receiver 3. I think it's very important is getting weapons for Kirk Cousins if you're gonna go all out and trading for him, and that's grabbing Emeka Egbuka, who I think is such a stud. So then you'd have Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, Emeka Egbuka. That'd be a great wide receiver trio, and let's now get into free agency. All right, and I'm gonna go crazy again with the wide receiver position. Mike Williams. I don't think Mike Williams is as good as he used to be, but you need a wide receiver 4. Calvin Austin is on the roster. He's a solid wide receiver. Maybe you could look to him to being the wide receiver 4 and let Mike Williams walk. But could you imagine I'm just thinking about it. Could you imagine a wide receiver group of Pickens, Wilson, Williams, and Egbuka? Like Emeka Egbuka, I think is going to be a great wide receiver. But imagine he comes in, he starts struggling a little bit as a rookie. You can lean to three more experienced guys with Williams, Wilson, and Pickens. So that's why I'd re-sign him. If he'll come back on a cheap deal, a couple million, bring him back. All right. Then back to the quarterback position in the draft. Now, look, you shouldn't trade for Kirk Cousins and not have a backup plan. Kirk Cousins has an injury history. He tore his Achilles last year. He had some bad play this year. Have a backup plan. I was very upset with the Steelers in 2020. I said in 2020, Big Ben was near retirement. I think he had it. I kept saying I think he has a season or two left, and he did play 2 more seasons. In 2020, they didn't have a first round pick, I believe. In the second round, I kept saying, draft Jalen Hurts, and they didn't. They passed on Jalen Hurts. That's when they drafted Chase Claypool. Philadelphia got him. I was big on Pittsburgh drafting Jalen Hurts to be the future replacement for Big Ben, and they didn't. This is the time. Get a future quarterback. I don't know if this guy will be as good as Jalen Hurts has been, but draft Quinn Ewers in the second round. Quinn Ewers hasn't officially declared for the draft yet, but he said before Texas's loss yesterday, he did say that he's planning to go in the draft and not return to college. We'll see if he actually does that, though. I think Quinn Ewers has some problems you need to fix. I think he'll have a problem that other rookies have had is throwing the ball away in pressure, which is a big problem he's had with Texas. But he has great accuracy, and I think that's a great key to being successful in the NFL. And if you line it up with all the wide receivers I have them adding in, like, having drafting Emeka Buka, having Pickens, bringing in Garrett Wilson if they did those things, and also having a veteran like Mike Williams, who knows if he'd ever play with Mike Williams, because I'm sure if they bring back Mike, it'll be on a 1-year deal, and who knows if Quinn Ewers would actually play. But I just feel like Quinn Ewers would be good with this Steelers team. You have Arthur Smith, a good play caller. You'd have the wide receivers with Ibuka and Wilson and Pickens. This would be a good fit for him. I don't know if he'll be a good player in the league, but if he's going to be a good player in the league, this is the 100% the team he can be a good player in the league with. All right. Other free agents this team has, I'd try to re-sign Nate Herbig. I think you got to re-sign Najee Harris. I let Jaylen Warren walk, and in the third round, I draft Cam Skattebo. I know this is kind of getting a little crazy at this point, but I think it is slight realistic. Like this, we've heard the Steelers interested in trading for Kirk Cousins. We've heard they're interested in trading for Garrett Wilson. I've seen multiple mock drafts recently where both Quinn Ewers and Emeka Buka end up in Pittsburgh. It's very possible Pittsburgh's going to want to re-sign. Want to re-sign Najee Harris. I think the only unrealistic part of this whole thing might just be Mike Williams returning to Pittsburgh. So, but Jaylen Warren, he's a great running back, but I think Cam Skattebo could be a really, really good running back in this league, and I think Cam Skattebo and Najee Harris would be a great 1-2 punch. So, and then other free agents. Maybe you re-sign Kyle Allen if you want a third emergency quarterback behind Ewers and Kirk Cousins. I don't know if there's anything else you go out there and do to improve this team. But I think this offense would be much improved. Like, the defense is there. I know the defense did struggle tonight against the Ravens in the playoff game. But the defense has always been the reason they win football games. And they play great football. Well, how about you work on the offense. You go hard on the offense. You have $40 million to spend. So go and trade for Garrett Wilson and Kirk Cousins and draft Ewers and Ibuka and Skattebo and re-sign Harris and call it an offseason. Let me know your thoughts on the Steelers' off-season plans. What do you think they should do? What do you think about my off-season plan? That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out.